to be in a position where we can talk about recovery and help people to help all of you to figure out ways to get there, to get to the end zone where you're not living addictively, that you're having a rich, full, meaningful life. Now, we all know with recovery, we never graduate, but we can make life way easier and way better if we just continue to work on our recovery, to believe in recovery, and to believe in a God that loves us way more than anything we've ever done wrong, so that we can recover. Because again, toxic shame loves to tell us not to recover because we're not worth it, and we can never expect more than mediocrity at best. And so here's our chance to really move forward and to really begin to experience life the way it was meant to be. And for many of us, we have no idea what that is, and certainly our families have no idea what that is, but it's out there, and you will grow to understand what it means as you continue to grow healthier in your life. So we keep talking about, and let me back up. So let's remember our tenets of recovery. One is that it's a no-fault disease. You didn't ask to be addicted. You didn't ask to live your life in destructive ways. You didn't ask for all the childhood pain and trauma and emotional abandonment, neglect you had, or wherever else. You didn't ask to have trauma in your life. You didn't ask to be in situations where the family wasn't safe. I mean, we got all these stories here, right, on all this. So you didn't ask for any of that. But the fact is, you got that. So now it's time to do something about it. So living addictively, living with addiction is a no-fault situation. You didn't ask for it. 2, addiction is substances, compulsive behaviors, and addiction to people. And again, addiction to people is probably the largest one of all. It's just where we don't value ourselves enough. We don't value who we are, and we give ourselves up over and over to other people. We try to control other people. We try to control outcomes that we don't have the ability to control. We don't trust other people. We don't open ourselves up to other people. We couldn't see a healthy person in front of us if we had to. And so these are all the reasons to come to NorthStar or other support groups, is so you can start seeing what healthy looks like. So no-fault disease, it's a very large spectrum what addiction is. It's certainly not just substances. Compulsive behaviors destroy people's lives. Again, all it's about habitual behavior to avoid pain. The other thing is this is not a willpower situation. You don't get out of addiction by having willpower, by having strength. You get out of addiction by following a medical treatment modality, which includes therapy, support groups, stopping, all those things. It's a process that requires an ongoing treatment plan. And so therapy, support groups, spiritual development, connection with healthy people who care about you and want what's best for you. That's how you heal from your past trauma and pain. There are things you can do. Exercise is important. And what we're going to talk about today is prayer, meditation, and intentional gratitude, which we just continue to keep talking about right now, particularly where it's in the Thanksgiving season. So again, what we have to remember is we develop neural pathways in our brain that goes from our brain, throughout our brain, and then to our body. And all that is connected. So if you're experiencing past trauma, your body is more on alert than it needs to be. Your brain is protecting you from threats that are no longer there. And if the threats are still there, you need to do something about that. But we're going to assume that you're now out of a lot of the threats that you're still protecting yourself against. That's hard to do. And so there's things we can do. So we want to change our brain circuitry. The word for it is neuroplasticity, or brain plasticity, however you want to call it. So the good and bad to plasticity is our brains do have the ability to overcome, to recover, to become better. The problem is we also, with brain plasticity, we have the abilities to develop pathways based on survival, which means anger, resentment, protection, addiction. So it works both ways. So what we want to do is we want to take advantage of our knowledge of recovery and change our neurocircuitry so that we can heal and become someone that we were created to be instead of living addictively. So it's hard to do. I mean, and the problem is that we love to go back to what we know. So the great saying is routine behavior will be changed to when we try to. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with my talk here. So when we change our behaviors, when we have new routines, old routines will come in and take over and bring us back. How many of us have seen times where we made some resolutions, we're going to do the willpower thing, and we actually do some changes, but it's not long before things start to slide back, and it's just gradual and sometimes immediate, but a lot of times it's gradual. Or I'll see families who, learning new skills, learning some cool stuff, and they just cannot make it. We just slide back. The family system takes over and keeps us dysfunctional. Like we talked about before, kids in abusive homes, they almost always will go back to the abusive homes if given the choice. It's what we know. It's what's destructive. You think about some of the destructive behaviors that you do that just don't make sense, but they do because they're familiar to you. So that's what we're talking about. We're going to break these patterns. We're going to break the destructive, addictive kind of behaviors, but it's hard to do. So the point is, if we can think about living your life with much less anxiety, with much less depression, with hope, with purpose. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're saying, do we want to live in a survival mode where all we're doing is getting through today, being addictive, using substances or compulsive behaviors, or being in destructive relationships, and maybe all of the above? Or do we want to live our lives with purpose and with meaning, with connection? Well, the problem with purpose, meaning, and connection is it creates risk. You have a risk of failing. You have the risk of being hurt. You have the risk of feeling pain that you don't want to feel anymore because of something new or taking a risk on something. Loving people and getting close to people is risky because you're going to be hurt. People are people. We're always going to disappoint and disagree with each other, but in healthy relationships that's not so destructive. In unhealthy relationships it's very destructive. So for many of us, we've just chosen to live safely, but we hate safely. We hate what it means. We're not living our lives fully and completely. Or even if we are, I see a lot of people actually have rich, full, meaningful lives, but you're so miserable from your toxic shame and you're fighting off the toxic shame that you don't enjoy it. And it either breaks you down or you give up or keep living addictively just to get by. Doesn't have to be that way. You can have peace, you can have love, you can have connection, but you have to do things differently. And so addiction it's addictive behavior just keeps us safe, even though it's very destructive. So there are answers on how to do this. Now, obviously, there's lots of answers, but the biggest thing is that you have to figure out a safe place to go. We obviously think NorthStar is one of those safe places. It's a place where you can come, you can be heard, you can hear other people's stories. And like I always tell people that are thinking about coming that are new, you're going to hear your story. It's going to be someone else, but you're going to hear your story. And I always kind of sometimes think, it's kind of wrong, I guess, but it's great to know other people have suffered like I have. But it takes away the pressure. I don't feel like it's just me now, that there's other people out there who have gone through stuff too. So it's just you come to find out that you're not alone and people understand what you're talking about. We're not going to tell you what to do, but we're sort of going to hear you, might give you some ideas on things you can do to get better. So that's what you need to do. You got to get out of the house. You got to get out of your home. You cannot, as I tell people, you can't lay in the basement sucking your thumb in fetal position and expect to get better. And I know that's hard to do because your trust levels are low. You've been hurt by people. But I'm telling you, support groups are great because they're there to support you. That's what they're there for, and that's it. So what if I said to you, though, there's other things we can do? And you've heard me talk about this in the past, but there's 3 things we can do, and I've kind of combined them. They're not the same, but I still kind of do it. Meditation, prayer, and living with intentional gratitude. These are 3 tools that you can start practicing at home by yourself that hopefully will motivate you then to try to live your life more fully and completely, and hopefully want to connect more. So it's a great way to go. So if I said to you, if you would spend 13 minutes minimum, but 13 minutes 3 times a day, 3 times a week, you'll get better. You'll start feeling less anxious. You'll start feeling less depression. You'll start feeling less resentments. You'll stop feeling all this uncomfortableness that your body's feeling from your brain that's feeding it with the anxiety and the safe, familiar ways we're doing things. So what if we said that if you will spend 13 minutes 3 times a week, that things can get better. So let's talk about it. So meditation, I'm going to put meditation out here. I see meditation and prayer together, but let's just for a moment, we'll differentiate. Meditation is, I really do just try to calm myself, get comfortable in a quiet place, and just try not to think about anything. And it's hard to do. And you'd have to work at it. So I say meditation and prayer, we can put them pretty closely together. Think if you went into prayer, no agendas, all that, but just to listen for God and to think about some of the things you want to pray about. And we're going to talk a bit more specifically about prayer. It's a good thing. And then intentional gratitude. Let's talk about intentional gratitude first. So again, I heard Dr. Conti the other day in a talk. He was saying that what makes people, what do happy people have that others don't? They have a sense of control in their lives. They live with intentional gratitude, and they have humility. They know they're part of something bigger than themselves. Pretty good way to go, right? So how do we get this? So let's talk about gratitude. So again, I do recommend the Andrew Huberman Lab. It's Huberman Labs. It's long and it's very detailed, but it's really helped me understand the connection of physiology and our mental brain parts of us to help us connect better, which then of course creates more strength in our spirituality. So yes, we do, we've recommended for years that you write down 3 things that you're grateful for each day. Write down something good that happened today. Exercise, pray, meditate, and then do a random act of kindness for someone else. If you do those things, your life's getting better. And the random act of kindness certainly is part of the humility thing that Dr. Conti was talking about, where you realize that you're part of something much bigger than your own life. Because let's be honest, when we're in recovery, when we're in addiction, we're pretty self-centered, and it's not in the right ways. So random act of kindness is a little way for you to help someone else. So that leads into what the Huberman Labs have been talking about. The research suggests that we actually can get a physiological and a pathway. We can change our pathways even faster with gratitude if we will create a story about when someone was grateful to us for what we did. And if you don't have a story like that, which I hope you do, is you can think about historical stories where you're grateful for someone doing something kind for someone else. I don't know, you hear the stories about someone who had tragedy in their lives and how a whole community went out and served them and helped them. That's a story of gratitude, that the gratitude of the human spirit and its kindness. But hopefully you can think of gratitudes for you where you've had people come to you and say, I'm so grateful for something you did. So create a story, create 3 to 5 bullet points on that story, and then use that to help you become more grateful. So I'm combining the 2, and then write your list. But do the story. Try it. See if it doesn't work for you. What are those 3 to 5 top bullet points you can think about and repeat about the story? And about the outpouring of love that you have received from someone else, or people being grateful because of what you did. So does that make sense? So your gratitude, we're changing it a little bit. We're adding to it. We're saying write out your list, but also just think about where you had gratitude shared to you. So I hope that helps you. And then when we think about prayer, I talked about this last week, and we'll continue to do it. I got this from Norman Vincent Peale. He was a spiritual leader for this country and the world for many years, from the 30s, probably maybe a little earlier than that, to the 30s through the 60s. Well, really till the 90s. He died in 1991. But he was out there, man. He really was about positive thinking, about scientifically connecting spirituality with the world and all that kind of stuff. So I'll read these again. He goes, set aside a few minutes to be alone and quiet. So we've already talked about that. Talk to God simply and naturally. Tell God anything that is on your mind. And again, I think this is also where we maybe expand that a little bit to say, not just ask what you need, what you want, but just to be grateful and thankful for God and his love for you. Practice talking to God as you go about your business of the day. So when you're driving down the road, take a moment, thank God or pray to God. When you're maybe got a moment where you're standing in line somewhere, affirm that God is with you and helping you. So say that, go, I know that God's helping me. I know he's here for me. Be grateful for God and his working in our lives. I'm telling you, I think that's one of the best things about gratitude, is that when you start working gratitude, you start experiencing God's love. You start seeing it. Think positive, not think negative thoughts when you pray. So don't pray for the destruction of somebody, but you can, if someone that you really resent, pray for them. In fact, he talks about praying for people you resent like twice a day, and pray for them to get over their hurts, habits, and hang-ups. So that will help you to become more successful in your life as you let go of the resentments. In your prayers, simply put everything into God's hands. Pray for wisdom, strength, and courage. Say a word of prayer for people you do not like or treat you badly. This will help them and release tremendous power in you. Anytime during the day, say a word of prayer for anyone that's out there. Just say a word of prayer for them, and it will help you so much. And then above all, just believe that God loves you and he is actively on the move in your life. So I'm going to close. So we're talking about, get to support groups, meditate, pray, practice intentional gratitude 3 times a week, 13 minutes, and you'll see a difference in your life. So we're talking about 39 minutes of you per week, helping you change the pathways in your brain from negative, destructive, addictive to positive, purposeful, connected. So, it's your choice, but it does work. There's no question. So I'm going to close with Philippians again. I keep using this, but it's just such a good one. So Philippians 4, celebrate God all day, every day. Revel in him. Make it as clear as you can to all you meet that you're on their side, working with them and not against them. And so in our case, we're going to pray for those people. Help them see that the master is about to arrive. He could show up any minute. Don't fret or worry. Instead of worrying, pray. Let petitions and praises shape your worries into prayers, letting God know your concerns. Before you know it, a sense of God's wholeness, everything coming together for good, will come and settle you down. It's wonderful what happens when Christ displaces worry at the center of your life. So I hope this has been helpful to you. I encourage you to try to 3 times 13. Obviously, that's minimum. You can do more. But we can have a rich, full, meaningful life. We really can. And one that we can enjoy, but we have to do our part. God's there. He loves us. He's taken us through some stuff. We've experienced stuff that broke his heart as well. But now we're on the move. We're on the mend. We can have a rich, full, meaningful life. But we have to get our spiritual life in order. Or we have to get over our addictive behaviors and our addictive thinking. It's a physiological, spiritual, emotional disease that we can combat if we do the things we need to. So again, if you're here local, we meet, NorthStar Community meets at Mechanicsville, Virginia at Walnut Grove Baptist Church, 7046 Cold Harbor Road. We meet on Wednesday nights at 6:30, and we meet on Friday nights at 6:30. We feed you, and we have childcare. So we take away some of your excuses not to come. No one's going to force you to talk. Everybody's there though to hear you, and everybody that comes, they're new. They always go, "Wow, this was such a great experience." And so hopefully you'll have the courage to come try it at some point. And if you're not local, you can email me at csimpson@wgva.church. I'd love to hear from you, and we can talk over email. So again, I thank you so much for joining me. We can have a rich, meaningful life. We can experience love, purpose, connection, but we have to do our part. So I close today, and I thank you so much for joining me. Let's close in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you again for your love for us. And I hope that we can all come to learn, no matter what we've done, no matter how bad we've been, no matter the sins we've created, nothing compares to your love. You are here. You know our hearts. You know our trueness. You created us. And so we just thank you so much for your love. Help us in our recovery, that we also may recover for ourselves, but also be there for others who are in need. We just thank you so much, God.